All right, English 11 students. So what have we been doing the past week? We started our novel, The Catcher in the Rye, and we're taking a look at how the time period influences the author, which in turn influences the novel. And so we've got J.D. Salinger, a guy who is returning home from the war. A lot of people are glossing over all the terrible things that these soldiers had seen, and we have this new era of consumerism, big advertising, and a culture of buy, 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 right? And he's not buying it, and he's a little disappointed, and he sees this sort of this consumerism, this materialism as being very fake, and so he has this character, Holden, right? And Holden is the embodiment of that view. Everyone's a phony, even though he comes from a very well-to-do family. He's just been kicked out of a prep school, but everyone there is fakes. They're all terrific liars. It's basically Salinger using this teenage character as his voice for his disappointment in modern America. And so we kind of take a look at that. We also took a look at who Holden is as a narrator. He's very contradictory in his stories. Like he says, he reads a lot, but he's illiterate. So how can you read a lot and not be illiterate at the same time? He also tells you at the start of chapter 3 that he's a terrific liar. He says, even if I'm going to the store and someone asks me where I'm headed, I'll tell them I'm going to the movies. So we're taking a look at the impact of when you have a narrator who is unreliable, who's an admitted liar. What does that do as a reader? Can you trust everything that they say? How does that affect your interpretation as you go through the book? We took a look at some of the things in the symbolism. We talked about that red hunting hat. It could be a symbol for his immaturity, because at the one point he pulls it down over his face and he pretends like he's blind. We also talked about how it's red, and he winds up going on a little bit of a monologue about his little brother who died of leukemia, and guess what color his hair was? It was red, just like the hunting hat. Also, his little brother died of leukemia, which is a cancer of the blood. Hat's red. So it could be symbolic of that. We talked about the ducks in the pond in Central Park. And he wonders about the ducks, and he wonders about where they go when the pond freezes over. And he's wondering about that at a time when he's just been kicked out of Pensy Prep. So the ducks at this point could be symbolic of him wondering where he's going to go, now that this pond has sort of dried up or frozen over for him. Can't get back in. So where's he going to go? So the ducks are sort of symbolic of that as well. You guys completed your first persuasive essay. You chose 2 prompts. One, does technology alienate us or bring us together? Also, does consumerism lead to individuality or conformity? Most of y'all chose the technology prompt. Biggest problem, and you guys are allowed to rewrite it, is if you didn't choose a side. You said, sometimes it brings us together, sometimes it drives us apart. It's got to be one or the other. So that was the biggest problem. The other thing was you might have had a quote, but you didn't tell me where the quote was from. Or you told me where the article you read, but you didn't give me some sort of specific evidence, whether it was a quote, a fact, some sort of stat like that. So you got to be specific in your evidence, and you also have to tell me where that evidence is from. You can't just sprinkle a quote in and then not tell me where you found said quote. Okay? So rewrites, A days, you got yours back yesterday. I need those by next week. B days, you'll get yours back today. And you'll be turning those in by next week as well. So you get a week from when I pass them back to you. That's where we're at. We'll be through the end of chapter 6. Today for both A Day and B Day, your 1 through 6 questions are due next class, and there'll be a summative grade, sort of treating it like a quiz grade, but very easy. You're just sort of completing those questions as we go through. And they're really tied into a bunch of the skills that we're hitting, whether it's acknowledging symbolism, the effect of the setting on the story, the effect of the time period on the story, those things like that. All right, guys? Have a great weekend, and I'll see you in class.